There must have been moments of unimaginable disbelief when Lieutenant Ripley discovers a most terrifying stowaway on board her escape shuttle named the Narcissus, in the fourth and final act of 1979's Alien. Just when this nightmarish fever dream appeared to be over, Ripley would have been experiencing the after effects of intense trauma and shock from her encounters on board the Nostromo, as well as severe fatigue and confusion from sudden malnutrition, no doubt. Therefore, it is a true testament to her character based on what is achieved in this claustrophobic and extremely time-sensitive situation, as she then demonstrates just as much unequivocal determination and willpower to survive as the alien itself. After shooting the grappling hook for great effect, I might add, in sending the xenomorph, aka Big Chap, on his merry way, well, this would surely have concluded not only Ripley's horrifying first chapter in the franchise, but also the fate of the original Alien, or would it? Now, some of you eagle-eyed, die-hard Alien fans in the comments of my previous theory video had the kindness to share with me something they had spotted hidden away within the Romulus trailer. Once I saw it for myself, I was stunned by the possibilities of connective tissue at play here, so I decided to lay the groundwork for at least what I think are thought-provoking theories that heavily connect the Narcissus vessel and what may have occurred to it during its 57-year journey into Ripley's next adventure, Aliens. So, in particular, why do we see what appears to be the same vessel here in a scene where Renaissance Station collides with the ice ring belonging to the gas giant that is most likely the same planet named Calpamos, orbiting the star Zeta II Reticuli, which was the same star system visited in previous entries into the franchise? Calpamos is home to 3 moons, 2 of which include LV-426 from the first 2 films, and LV-223 seen in Prometheus. After Ripley blasts the creature into space using the grappling gun, the force of pull from the attached device snatches the tool from her hands, becoming lodged in the airlock as the door rapidly closes. The same device can be seen at the start of Aliens during the salvage inspection if you look closely. Not only that, but the director James Cameron can be heard performing voiceover for one of the salvage crew due to budget and time constraints.
Bio readouts are all on the green. Looks like she's alive.
As the alien instinctively searches for safety, a possible way back inside, you'll notice the cord from the grappling gun in full view in these frames, still firmly attached to the beast. What happens next feels highly conclusive and undisputable as we see Big Chap being fatally burned from the very thruster it sought refuge in, and then slowly drifting into space, either dead or dying. It would also be a strong assumption that the cord connecting the creature to the Narcissus vessel acting as a tether was also severed in the burst of heat. However, what if the hook and cord now clamped in the airlock remained intact, and Ripley's lifeboat unknowingly became a towing vessel for the very thing she strived to be free of? Once again, this is simply a theory based on clues in the trailer and floating rumours online, nothing more. It's important to remember that the events of Alien began in the year 2122, with Romulus confirmed to take place just 20 years later. For this reason, it would be fairly safe to assume that the Renaissance Station in Romulus must have been built prior to Nostromo's refinery retrieval mission to feed us in the Epsilon Reticuli system 59 light-years away from Earth. Such a large construction in Romulus not only would have been already established, but most likely fully occupied and operational during the events of Alien. If we acknowledge this, then it undoubtedly opens up ample speculation into the ever-contentious conspiracy that is, did the company have knowledge of the distress signal and the derelict itself on planet Acheron, also designated as LV-426? Please also take note that the Nostromo science officer was replaced by the synthetic sleeper agent Ash just 2 days before its departure to feed us. However, at this point there would have been no reason for suspicions to arise. From the crew of the Nostromo's first encounter with the deadly species within the derelict on Acheron, right up to the demise of Ash, the individual in question, his consistent reporting would have been pinged back to eager ears within the upper echelon of Weyland-Yutani.
There is an explanation for this, you know.
and this communication may have even continued after Ash was destroyed due to secretly placed transmitting devices on board their ship that may also have had access to the Nostromo's flight recorder. The question is, how did the powers that be act on this information? I suspect what will unfold in Romulus will detail a series of events that see company agents on a retrieval mission to the Narcissus, the only surviving remnant of the Nostromo. With the entire refinery and towing vessel decimated from the self-destruct sequence, I can't imagine Weyland expected this interception to yield any results. Possibly trace samples at best if the Narcissus was searched with a fine-tooth comb, but if the theory of Big Chap remaining tethered to the ship is plausible enough, then the retrieval team would have had quite the fortunate surprise on arrival in the form of a complete specimen intact yet cocooned. In my last video I shared my thoughts on the reasoning for the cocoon image in the trailer. If we can carry the same theory into this discussion, then the very same explanation can be applied. The alien would have built a cocoon and then slowed its metabolic state to near death for hibernation in space, as a last minute act to cheat death. Whether it was soon or long after the detonation of the Nostromo that the retrieval team arrived to discover such a large and intact specimen tethered to the Narcissus would have been irrelevant. Company employees on this search and rescue mission would have found everything they could possibly require scientifically, as well as a hefty paycheck and fast-track promotion, I bet. Interestingly enough, this may also explain why the inside air pressure components and Ripley herself were never tampered with, until she was discovered by a salvagers 57 years later and then sent to Gateway Station orbiting Earth for recovery, and some nightmarish dream therapy. Perhaps the decision was made between the first responders and higher-ups to abandon any rescue attempt, as waking her up would only complicate issues for the company if she was ever to be later released, even if there was no government or policing around at the time that could hinder them at this point. The finer details within this hypothesis will no doubt come to light during the Romulus film, such as did the Nostromo have a tail? Meaning, was the ship closely followed by a Weyland-Yutani Black Ops vessel using radio silence and other means of stealth to stay off their radar? This idea seems more unlikely to me, as their voyage back from the mining location to the Zeta 2 Reticuli system, where both LV-426 and possibly the Renaissance station in Romulus are present. It makes more sense to me that Weyland-Yutani were acutely aware of the derelict spacecraft and its value to the company long before the Nostromo flight path was interrupted by the derelict distress signal.
Oh God, doesn't sound like any radio signal I've heard.
How much they understood about the alien ship's contents is uncertain, as it is impossible to know if the company had been the first to step inside the dilapidated craft, or perhaps it was them who planted the distress beacon to attract expendable working class bait in a very grand and costly scheme to acquire priceless xeno samples and embryos. Therefore, the more logical narrative is that the company had set up shop within the same system in the form of Renaissance Station, with the sole focus and intention of collecting samples from the crash site, analysing them and then building upon this foundation of new scientific discoveries. To aid them in this bright new future full of endless technological advancements would be the addition of the unknowing flight crew on board the Nostromo and the carefully placed android to see that no errors were made with his scientific clearance level that conveniently took precedence above all else. Once the crew had unintentionally brought a specimen back on board the Nostromo, then it would have become merely a waiting game for personnel working on the Renaissance Station, and only a matter of time before exciting research and experiments were underway. If we look at the trailer clue once more, it is very clear to me that this is a modified Lockmark Star Club light shuttle, identical to the lifeboat vessel used by Ripley in Alien. There is always a strong possibility that these ships were standard issue at the time of Renaissance Station's construction, and are also very likely to be used here as part of the station's contingency plan to escape the oncoming destruction. Therefore, it is completely reasonable if a copy of the same model ship has been used by the surviving members of the salvaging crew in this new film. But if we persist with the current theory that the Narcissus lifeboat vessel carrying Ripley in cryo was intercepted, Then it is also possible that this ship was taken back to the Renaissance, where it remained until the station's destruction in Romulus. If we do have ourselves a Ripley cameo in Alien Romulus, then I imagine it will be brief and restricted to the cryopod inside the lifeboat. But this theory does raise some questions as to why she was left alone in cryo on the ship and how long after her arrival did the experiments take to go awry. It may only have been a matter of months from the Narcissus first docking with the station to it being completely abandoned due to an alien outbreak, which would have meant she may have been found sooner than the year 2179 if her initial flight path had not been disrupted by Weyland operatives serving Renaissance Station. This begins to make more sense to me that upon discovering the Narcissus in the first place, they most likely knew exactly what frequency the ship was outputting, to be able to track it. Something the salvaging crew that discovered her in Aliens was not capable of, as Burke did inform Ripley that it was blind luck she was found drifting through the core systems. Assuming that this odd little theory has any weight to it, it may be that the young salvagers discover the docked ship and quickly send it on its way, with her original coordinates intact before the station met its demise. In doing so, it would be a nice well-rounded Easter egg and also wouldn't interfere or contradict any canon leading into the events of Aliens. Most importantly, what do you guys think? Is it too far out a theory just based on the identical looking ship in the trailer? Or do you believe there are some grounds to support this narrative? Let me know as always, and please check out the link in the description to purchase your copy of the soon-to-be released Aliens Expanded 4-hour documentary coming sometime this month. Once the documentary does become available, if you decide to purchase a copy through my link in the description, then it would really help me out. Thank you kindly. On that note, wishing you well guys, as always, and I'll see you next time. Stay entertained.